Hello, good morning, Africa. Good morning, South Sudan. Welcome to African Morning Breakfast Show, coming to you live right here on SABC from our studio in South Sudan, capital Juba. My name is Majur Cholkur. Today is a brand new day as you're enjoying African Morning Breakfast Show in your residence, in your house, in the offices, wherever you're following us online. This is African Morning Breakfast Show that brings to you issues that matters to you in each of our discussion. In this edition of African Morning Breakfast Show, allow me to say we're going to talk about education in the Republic of South Sudan. And the question is, what is it all about education? We're going to look at investing in education in South Sudan, the impact of investing in education in South Sudan. Earlier, before South Sudan gained her independence in 2011, majority of South Sudanese has been pursuing the education in the neighboring countries like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and to mention the few. Right here in South Sudan, after the independence of South Sudan, some South Sudanese official and private and citizen of South Sudan thought of having quality education in the country by investing in primary and secondary schools in the Republic of South Sudan. In this edition of African Morning Breakfast Show, as we are going to explore more about the impact of education in South Sudan, joining me right here in this edition is none other than Ustaz Acher Manyot John, the director of St. Laurent Nursery Primary and Secondary School, and is also an economist and also financial analyst. And not forgetting Ms. Chadia Grace Richard, the senior women teacher at St. Laurent Nursery, Primary, and Secondary School. Lady and gentlemen, allow me to say it, I'm profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have you for the first time in African Morning Breakfast Show on SSBC. Good morning, be welcome.
Good morning, Major.
Thank you so much for having your time to accept our invitation to come to African Morning Breakfast Show to discuss the impact of investing in education in South Sudan. But before we look into that matter, it is our normal routines and business that when you wake up in the morning, you have to greet people and take tea. I know we are not taking tea right here in the studio, but people who are watching there taking tea to follow this program, maybe your word of greeting to them, Chadia.
Thank you so much, the presenter. I'm very much honored and privileged to be in my own national radio station. To our listeners, good morning. I'm called Chandia Grace Richard. I'm the senior woman teacher for St. Lawrence Academy Secondary Section. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chadia. Ustaz?
Thank you, Bona Majur, for having us here. Good morning, SSBC BOS. By name, Acher Manyot John, Director of St. Laurent Academy.
Thank you so much for having your time to come once again. Before we look at the impact of investing in education in South Sudan, let's start with you, Ustaz Acher. You have thought of coming up with establishing this education institution, which is a school in the country. But before that, what have you been doing before?
Thank you, Majur. One, all of us have a duty in this country as a youth to make a change that our children and children of our children should be proud of. I was a student schooling in Kenya. While schooling, I was also teaching. I was lecturing in one of the colleges. There I questioned myself, what can I do best to my country? As Abraham Lincoln said, you must think what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. So I thought of establishing a school with a vision, a mission that is going to take part in transformation of our society. So the idea of St. Laurent is a give back to a society and what an individual like me and you can do for the country. I established a school way back in 2011. I started the process, the project in paperwork in 2011, and it realized its maturity stage in 2019 to 2020. So I was schooling from school. As I mentioned earlier, I was working also, hustling here and there for me to raise the capital.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us insight of who you are and what you have been doing. Chadia, you're one of the senior women teachers in St. Laurent secondary section. But before you become a senior women teacher at St. Laurent, what were you doing before? Why do you choose to come to the education sector?
Thank you very much, the presenter. Before I came to St. Lawrence, I was already a teacher. I've taught in several schools. And I chose education not because I was forced to do it, but it was my own inspiration because my own dad is a teacher, and I had an uncle also who was a teacher before he passed on. So I got inspired by some of our female teachers, and looking at the call of our country where the women, the girl child, and even the workforce, the female are lagging behind, I felt it's my role as a citizen to uplift the upcoming young generation, where at least the ratio in the workforce can be at least, if not 50-50, 32 to 40. So I've been a teacher. I've served in the different backgrounds. I taught in primary. I headed a school. I taught in the university. Before I came to Juba, I was in Torit. My home is in Torit. I was a lecturer in EIU, one of the private universities. And I'm also a government employee as a teacher. Okay. So I love my job. And I would like to see this country is transformed through education. Because there's a saying that if you want to kill a country, destroy the education system. If you want the country to grow, implement and improve the education sector, the country will be very nice one. I'm so much privileged to be a teacher, and I'm proud of it. I like it.
Thank you so much for being a proud teacher in the Republic of South Sudan. And dear viewer, thank you so much for following African Morning Breakfast Show right here on SABC. We're going to talking right now about the impact of investing in education in South Sudan. And right here in this discussion is with us Achier Manuat John, Director of St. Laurent Nursery, Primary and Secondary School. He's also an economist and financial analyst, and not forgetting Miss Chadia Grace Richard, Senior Women Teacher for St. Laurent Nursery, Primary and Secondary School. Remember, if you're following us online, keep in mind that like, comment and share this discussion right here. If you can comment, if you have a question, leave your questions in the comment section, and then we'll be in a position to share your information with our guests right here in this discussion. And let's come back to my guest right here, Ustaz Achier. Looking at your background and coming up to establish a school and start investing, now, what do you think after investing in this education, what was your dream that you want to achieve maybe in the next 5-10 years? How do you want South Sudan education to be like?
Thank you so much, Mr. Majur. Your question drew me back to the vision of St. Laurent Academy. St. Laurent Academy vision is to be the leading center of academic excellence in the region and beyond. And the mission is to take part, participate in the transformation of society through provision of quality education in area of science and technology. So when you ask the vision, it is the vision of St. Laurent that is going to translate, and it will answer your question. So going to education sector in area of investment, there are many areas that one would choose to invest in. But I choose to invest in education because we South Sudanese fought for 21 to 22 years fighting marginalization from Arab. For us to realize our independent, we must organize ourselves. And the organization of society comes through education. A well-thriving country is determined by an organized society through education. So I thought of establishing the school that is going to promote quality education, to be agent of change in the society. So I choose to do that. Yes.
Now, looking at the years that you have been operating, what do you think that you have achieved so far as a young person who have decided to invest in education?
Thank you so much. Economically, looking at the business end, investing in education is not an area where you can make profit. Investing in education, as I mentioned earlier, is a give back to a society. And looking at our economic indicators, majority of masses or people in the country, their income, their capita income is very low. So one find it hard to afford paying a school fees for his or her child. Therefore, we cannot sit down and wait for that time where the school will be profitable for us to invest in. It is these people that we are trying to change their life are the ones that are going to make the education sector good in the country. So in area of making profit is not there. But I'm proud that we are changing the life of people. If you go to St. Lawrence, we are giving assistance to those who cannot afford, especially girl child. I decided even to enter to Mangatene camp, IDP. I pick those who cannot go to school, and they are now schooling. Maybe you'll take your time, you go and interview them. The idea is, how do we take our country to the next stage in area of peace, in area of development? Okay. So that is one of the major factors.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to you, Ustaz Chair. Let's go to Chadia. Chadia, you said you're one of the proud teachers, and given your gender as a female, looking at the education in South Sudan, the years that you have been teaching and the current years that we are in right now, seeing South Sudan gain high independence, what do you think has improved in education sector and relations to your school that you're teaching in right now? What impact are you seeing that you're giving to the children and even back to the parent that their children are going to school?
Thank you very much, the moderator, and our listeners of SSBC. In education sector, I've seen there is already the change. We have at least lifted the enrollment gap. Before we got our independence, the gap, the ratio of a boy to child was 1:10, according to research. Due to some cultural norms of our country and our communities, girls were set back. They were not allowed to enroll in certain point. And also the conflict was another barrier. But from the onset of our independence, it has started changing gradually, following the provision in our Education Act, which is stating that all children, every learner, every child must be enrolled in school, and education in primary and secondary must be free. So all these campaigns has at least lifted the enrollment of both boys and girls. Especially, there's remarkable increase in the enrollment of girls. Today, when we go to class, at least you see that the girl child, the number of children, I think you were also there in the coverage, you can see that at least in the urban areas, girls enrolled at school. Even deep in the villages, a lot of campaign is going on. Through the GUIDES program, there's provision of campaign. We have the Back to School initiative. We have the Community Girls initiative, where every community member is encouraged to give sensitization to the community members. So all in all, in the experience I've been having as a teacher, in the past, girls were few. Even some boys were not allowed to get enrolled to school. But today, it has improved. Enrollment has improved. Girls are at least enrolled at school. The ratio is not all that bad, though we still have a lot to do.
Okay. Talking about your role as a senior women teacher and a girl child welfare teacher at St. Laurent, what welfare are you looking for the girls that are going and pursuing their courses in secondary school and primary, especially at St. Laurent and other school in South Sudan? What welfare do you always fight for as women teachers or female teachers?
Thank you so much. Based on St. Lawrence is a school that is implementing the government, the education policy very well. At St. Lawrence, we look at both the girl child and the boy child as equals. We give them equal opportunities to attend classes, though there are other barriers that hinders a girl child's attendance. But as a school, through our managing director, we have managed to bridge that gap. We have managed to subside the challenges. By one, we have a very good safe house, which I hope you saw when you went the other day. In the safe house, we have provision of sanitary pads. We have constant running water. For a girl who is on her period, can get changed, dressed, and everything is provided, so that this same girl will attend like the boys. Because at least in a month in average, a girl child has some 4 or more days during her cycle. And if this is not attended to, it affects her attendance in the class. So as a school, St. Lawrence has at least managed to make sure that the girl child feels more comfortable like the boy child by all this provision. We have a restroom. In the restroom, a girl who is on her menstrual cycle and having some slight pains goes to take shower. After shower, she's given 30 minutes to rest. Then she gets fresh. Then she gets back to class. So ideally, St. Lawrence is really pro-girl child education, and we are doing a lot. We are doing great. We are not only proud to say this, but any other person can see it and get through our students.
Yes, I witnessed when we visited your schools. I was like, is St. Laurent a secondary school or a primary for girls? Because I was trying to see at the parade, the majority were girls.
Sure.
And this gives me a question like, what criteria do you use to enroll all these girls to come to St. Laurent? And where are you drawing all these students from? Are they from your area that the school is located, or they come from different area of Juba and even other state?
Okay. In St. Lawrence, we have 2 main factors that draws learners and even that inspires parents to bring their children to St. Lawrence. One, the quality, the teaching. All classes are attended to. Any other person can go there at any time of classes. You will even fail to know whether they are students or not, because everyone is in and classes are going on. So in terms of quality and teaching, we are doing great. We are not only proud of this, but this can be justified. Number 2, you have seen girls were too many because of the provision of those services that will make the girl comfortable at class, at school, in the classroom, within the compound, is what draws many girls. And when it comes to our enrollment, we have people coming from all over the states. We have some people from Western Barakazal. Right now, as I talk, we have people in the boarding. We have people from Nimule. We have people from other parts of the country. So we even have foreigners in our school, not only South Sudanese. But what attracts them is basically the provision in the classroom and the provision that caters for both boys and girls. We have enough washroom. Imagine the secondary section alone, we have 28 bathroom toilets, 28. The safe house has 3. Then up in the flat we have 24, close to 27 bathrooms. So they feel comfortable. These are the services that draw girls. We also give them guidance. We organize meetings. Even yesterday we were for a meeting where we give them directives. We at least help them how to overcome the challenges in the country, be it financial or socially.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chadia Grace Richard. Let me come to Ustaz Achier Munyod. Ustaz, let's learn from you also. Given St. Laurent being private entity, and South Sudanese will be like asking you as a young person who has been working, having a dream to establish and invest in education. Now, let's look at the curriculums that you offer at the school. And the relationship between the private entities and the government. So what support do you think St. Laurent is getting from the government, and what curriculums are you offering now to the pupils and the students?
Thank you so much. St. Laurent Academy is like any other private school that is under the Ministry of General Education. They are the ones supervising a school. The support we are getting, of course, the Ministry of General Education has distributed books to all schools in South Sudan, of which the number of books was given according to the ratio of the learners in the school. That one I appreciate, is the support we are getting. Regarding the curriculums, we are using South Sudan curriculums. And if you ask me, what is your opinion about it, is what now I should, maybe you should ask me.
So what is your opinion about it?
Yes. At a personal level, Majur, for any thriving country, there are so many parameters that one should consider for you to be at a different level. One, we are a member of East African Community. And if you ask me where Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania are, they are in different stage. They are in different level. I appreciate the Minister of General Education under the leadership of Madam Aoud Dengachil. She's trying, but I have a suggestion that we need to benchmark these neighboring countries, the member state of East African Community. How? Our education system, you go from nursery to P8, then from P8 to Senior 4. If you go to Kenya, Uganda, and the rest of East African Community, there is what they call A level. Of course, our curriculums are competent-based. It's good, but we, at my personal suggestion, and it is my personal wish, that one day it will come. It is for us to have another 2 more classes on top of O level to make it advanced certificate. This one will make us now to match and compete with the rest of East African community. That is my prayers, and I don't have doubt Madam Aoud is trying. She will do something one day for us to be equal with Kenya, Uganda. Because sometimes our learners find it hard for you to be admitted directly for a degree course. You undergo what they call access program or a pre-university certificate, which take you 1 to 2 years for you to start a degree course. That is my appeal in line with the curriculums.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We'll come back and find out from two of you, comparing now studying within South Sudan and studying outside South Sudan. By then, majority of South Sudanese send their children to neighboring countries for quality education. And what assurance right now that you can give to the people of the Republic of South Sudan that it's no time as an independent country to send children to go and study outside of South Sudan. And as dear viewer, thank you so much for following African Morning Breakfast Show right here on SABC. We continue to talk about investing in education in South Sudan and why is it very important for you and your children and the citizens of South Sudan to have quality education in their own country like South Sudan. Let's have a break and find out from some students who spoke to us, SABC, on what they think about studying in their own country like South Sudan, and we'll be right back shortly.
I can say to my parents, all of our parents, the communities there, let's stay without doubt that we are receiving the kind of education we expected teachers, our administration, and also my students.
As I said before, St. Lawrence is the best place to be in. I didn't know much about St. Lawrence till I came. So all I can say, you can first come because you cannot judge a book by its cover.
The school has a lot of things in anything. We have a lot of like journalism club. We have a laboratory practice.
Motto of St. Lawrence is education is the key of life. And actually I believe and we also believe education is a key to success.
I believe there is quality education in St. Lawrence because the reason why people take their children to East Africa is because of the teachers there and the good education. But now in St. Lawrence, we have teachers from the East Africa, we have teachers from
our mission. The mission is to participate in changing our society, participating in the transformation of our society by providing high quality education that promotes excellence in areas of science and technology. What has the school done to promote that? What has the school done to transform our society? It's by bringing teachers outside, because we know that some parents, they don't have the capacity to send their children outside the country to get that better education. But what has St. Lawrence done and what has the director done by bringing outside teachers, foreign teachers? When you look around, you find that in St. Lawrence you have teachers from Uganda, you have teachers from Kenya, you have teachers from Sudan, we have teachers from within the country, because we cannot neglect our own motherland, go and pick teachers from outside, but we tend to bring in knowledge from different areas, because what matters in school is quality. What matters in school is quality education to relevance. When you try asking our learners, they will tell you that and they will give you the evidence.
My name is Mr. Kule Cleophas. I am the Deputy Head Teacher Academic of this mighty Center of Education, St. Lawrence Academy Secondary School. And at the same time, I am the Head of Department of English Language and Literature and the teacher of English language, the current Senior 4 we have this year. In fact, I'm very glad that SSBC chose to give us the opportunity to come and interact with us. We are really glad as a mighty school in the region and in the country to be part of this kind of big broadcast. Yeah, St. Lawrence Academy is a great center of academic excellence, and our vision is to be one of the leading institutions of learning in the whole region. Yeah, so this one basically gears our operations, our programs, and all the policies in ensuring that we come out with the best. We have quality learners, well disciplined, and we are glad that the parents we have are very supportive to us in lines of discipline, in lines of academic. In fact, they are very cooperative. There is surely no gap between the teachers, the learners, and the parents at large.
I really feel privileged to have SSBC come visit our school. As a teacher, obviously, one will expect me to talk about the benefits of my school. Our school at St. Lawrence was so much concerned about the quality of education that we give to our students. And it is not an overnight that the quality of education is given to the learners. Our school is filled with experienced teachers from within and others from different parts of East Africa. So the expertise we have at our disposal is enough to give us
Welcome back, dear viewer. Thank you so much for following. Those were the voices of the students and teaching staff of St. Lawrence Nursery, Primary and Secondary School, giving their testimonies about education and why is it very important for a student to study within their own country. And right here, as we went for break, I want my guests to talk about why is it very important for South Sudanese right now not to take their children to neighboring countries to study, and better for them to study at home. Ustaz Acher and Ms. Chadia, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go straight to the point that of recent years that South Sudanese have been sending their children to study abroad, and talking of improving the quality education in South Sudan right now. Do you think there is need for South Sudanese not to send their children again to Uganda, to Kenya, and other countries? Ustad.
Thank you once more, Majur. First answer, no need. Why? There is what they call in economic intervention approach. Intervention approach, if you find that in Kenya or in Uganda there is avocado, and avocado is very sweet, there is no need for you always to be buying it. You just need to get the seed from Uganda, plant it here in South Sudan, it will grow, harvest it, and consume it back home. It will reduce what we call in economic trade imbalance, because the more you send out hard currencies, it has effect in balance of payment. In context, South Sudan, as we are talking, we are in the same level with them, because majority of foreigners in Kenya, Uganda, they are here. They are the one teaching. And even as you have heard from the senior woman teacher, in St. Lawrence we have a student who are from foreign country. They are from Uganda. They are schooling there. Mean that there's no need for us to take our kid to a foreign country. What are the factors? There are many factors. One, you talk of social factor. Major education is not only how you can read and write. That is not education. Because education without element of social and norm is not education. When you take your child to a foreign country and you are here in South Sudan, what comes to your mind is that my child is in study. But of course, yes, he's in his school, but he's learning other things. It is very important for him to be in class or in the school. When he come back, you have your own norm to instill in that child. Because the world does not belong to us. So it is our responsibility as a parent to prepare our kids. And preparing them is not only how to read and write, but to know how the world is going, to see the dresses, the way the child dress, the way the child is talking, because there is what they call social factor. When you associate with the different learners, you are likely to adapt different way of living, which was not in your own house. So these are the things I see it that there is no reason why our people should still send their kid to foreign country.
Okay, thank you so much, Ustaz Acher. Ms. Chadia, there is this scenario whereby you'll find that most of the parents, they want to send their children to foreign countries because of maybe at the end of the day, they want their children to speak fluent English, they need them to write well, and there is always debate that people who study in the foreign countries, for example, if you go to people who are students who are studying in Khartoum, they could speak good Arabic than what people who are studying here. This is what people always say. They said also some students who are studying in East Africa, like in Kenya and Uganda, maybe they speak fluent English compared to students studying in South Sudan. Now, to beat that perception, what do you think teachers are doing right now in South Sudan? If you are studying in South Sudan, you could speak the same English that a student in Kenya, in Nairobi, in Uganda, Kampala, can still speak in Juba.
Thank you very much, the presenter. Of course, in the past, that is how people look at us as South Sudanese. And that we don't dispute, because in the past, our education system was a bit interrupted with the likes of crisis, the likes of marginalization in the southern part. But as per now, a child who studies here in South Sudan is more or less the same like a child who studies in Kenya, Uganda, and Ethiopia, because we have the quality teachers. We have Ugandans here. We have Kenyans who are teaching all over South Sudan, if I'm not mistaken. Wherever you go, they are here. And again, our own products are here. Like me, I have a mixed background. I studied to a certain extent now in Uganda, but I did my degree in University of Juba in the Department of English Language and Literature. So when you go to most of our schools now, even the government or public schools, this has changed. Our students speak good English because they have the right full teachers who even give them more than what others could do in other countries. We are not ashamed of that. We are now able, we are stable. Thank God we have the peace, and we have even foreigners who stay here peacefully, and they give all the knowledges that they had. Not let alone the foreigners, even our own South Sudanese are very many in the teaching profession, and they give quality education. So if you maybe you randomly choose a school in Juba and see how a nursery kid, even a primary pupil or a secondary student could speak good English like you were in our school. Even the listeners would have heard from our students how they were speaking. That is self-explanatory. So there's no doubt. Our parents will not be doubting. There's no need to look for dollars and to send our children outside. Because when we are here, we use our same currency to pay the tuition fee. But whenever you want to go to Uganda, you have to look for the hard currency to clear the students. And with this economic crisis, things are no longer easy. Then as a female teacher, I look at also the dangers of sending our children to a place where we are not there, under the care of maybe housemates or guidance. Now, you don't know what the child does. There are a lot of cry in the community in Juba, that you send your student to school, you send your child to school in Kampala, Nairobi, but this child will not be attending classes. At the end of the whole course, you'll not be surprised even to hear that this child has never completed, because they like guidance. So it's good to have your children at your own reach. In the evenings, you have time with them. You can even supervise and monitor whether my child is always at school or not. But when we are here and the child is in Kampala, there is no way you can go to visit and check whether the child goes to school or not. So morally, it's always good to have our children next to us. Even in terms of other social norms, it's always good to have our children. Discipline-wise, it's very, very good.
Okay, thank you so much. What do you think now the government of South Sudan, especially the Ministry of Education, given it being Ministry of Higher Education, General Education, what do you think need to be put in place for education system to get improved and for children to have access to quality education in South Sudan?
Thank you. This would be my suggestion, because I can only suggest, but now it's the government to see what to do. Honestly speaking, our education system has improved, and I even like the current curriculum because it is child-centered and it is competent-based. There are a lot of activities that exposes the child to do other things. There are projects, there are many other things. But now the main challenge is the learning materials are not enough, especially the textbooks, because a student is supposed to have a textbook whenever a teacher is teaching. Like for us in the English language, at least a child should have what? A book. But that is our greatest challenge. It's my humble appeal that if the government could produce more textbooks to aid us, the implementers, in delivering the content the way it is intended. Otherwise, it's our challenge. Two, the government could improve on the area of sciences by at least establishing some laboratories, at least in the public schools, which will also make us to produce students who know both practical and theory, because at the moment we are only producing learners who have what? Only theory. That is another thing. Then my major appeal is at least to improve, not only for teachers, at least to make the salary for civil servants attractive. Most teachers, most good teachers of the public schools are already in the private schools, just because whatever they get cannot sustain. So if the government could improve our curriculum by giving a lot of learning materials, reference books, building more schools, employing many teachers, and again making our services attractive, I think some of us could even go back to where we are. Thank you very much.
What do you mean where you are? You want to go back to the government?
Back to the government.
Thank you so much, dear. Ustaz Achir, maybe you can also respond to the same thing, and maybe your message to respond to that and conclude with your message to the viewers later.
Thank you so much, Majur. I think Madam has cut across, but personally, it draws to the budget that the Ministry of General Education is getting. If you look at their budget, I think is far below compared to other sectors. And it is my appeal for us to give them a suggestion. They must have fun. And if there is no fun, everything cannot move. One, there must be a law which is creating the environment for the investment. We have private banks in the countries. If these private banks are supporting, private school in terms of soft loan, in terms of loan with at least manageable interest, I am sure majority of South Sudanese will invest in education. And the more we have money in school, the more we create a competitive environment. Of course, it will come out with a quality service. That is what I can say. Otherwise, the Ministry of General Education is trying, under Awut as a person, she is trying. She's trying left, right, but the key here is financial resource.
Thank you so much, Ustaz Achir. What is your message to the parent, maybe the student that would be watching you at their free time, and yes, finally to the viewers, people who are not even South Sudanese and watching African Morning Breakfast Show?
Thank you so much, Majur. My message to the viewers, one, for us to realize the benefit of our independence is that we must organize our people. And to organize our people is through education. Take your child to school, and your child will not be in the same history where you are. I can talk about myself. My mom is not educated. My dad is not educated. But their history cannot be the same history with me. So I really encourage our parents, our dad, let us take our children to school. To the government, our country is in a kind of insecurity. There are a lot of fighting from left, right. What caused this is the ignorance. If our majority or masses are in the school, you will not hear anybody fighting another one, because you will wake up thinking what the day is up to. You must work to put something on the table if you are an educated person. But if you are not educated, you may think of going to raid cattle from A to B. That's the only way we can eradicate this one. So my appeal is, let the government make education compulsory. Let it be made something compulsory. Those who are not complying must, law must take its course. That is the only way our country can realize the benefit of independence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ustaz, Miss Chadiem, I know we cannot leave you out to give your advice to the mothers outside there, people who always send their children to school. In less than 1 minute, your message to the student, the people, the guardian, the parent outside. Less than 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Thanks to our listeners. Now, my last points of remarks will be like this. It's our role as parents. Whenever we have children, it's always our roles not to segregate sending them to school. By this, I mean equal opportunities should be given for both girls and boys to be enrolled in school, kept in school until they complete and they serve the nation. Then to our dear government, I'm so much grateful to the Ministry of Education. They are doing their best to make sure our education system has changed. And thanks to education partners who are supporting us, like the guests and other education partners, that makes our education system facilitated and we realize something good. Thanks.
Thank you so much, our stars, Chair Manuat, the director of St. Laurent Academy, Nursery and Primary Schools, and also Miss Chadia Grace Richard, Senior Women teacher at St. Laurent Nursery and Primary and Secondary School, for having your time to come to African Morning Breakfast Show. And dear viewer, thank you so much for having your time to accompany us and follow this conversation right here on SLBC African Morning Breakfast Show. We have been talking about the impact of investing in education in South Sudan and why is it important for you as South Sudanese who is sending his or her child to school, as someone who is studying and following this program. If you have been following us online and offline, thank you so much for having your time. And for me, Majur Cholkur, and my colleague in the technical team, we do say thank you so much for accompanying us, and do have a lovely time as you enjoy the rest of the program coming up right here on SABC. Bye for now. Thank you.